Welcome back to Salted Hash. I'm your host, Steve Reagan. I'm here with Bryson. We're going to talk about the ICS Village. We'll be right back. All right, so welcome back. As I said, I'm Steve Reagan, the host of Salted Hash, senior staff writer at CSO Online. I'm with Bryson, and we're at the ICS Village at the RSA conference. I've been out here all week filming, so it's been a long week. How's the village going for you? Doing good?
Oh, it's going great. I really believe that the villages are the biggest value in the future of conferences. It's not just about coming and listening to someone talk, and even if it's a really, really cool talk, here's your chance to come and get hands-on with something. And not just hands-on in sort of this awkward kind of, well, what is that way? But we've got, not just our village, but all of the villages have these passionate experts that are there to help walk you through and orient you and get you a chance to kind of like, I see, I get it, and to continue and to learn.
So critical infrastructure and control systems are a bit of a pain point for a lot of companies and even politicians. So where did the ICS Village start? What was the nexus for that, and how has it evolved over the last couple of years?
So I want to give a shout out to one of our co-founders, Tom Van Norman. He's really we kind of joke, he's the brains. I don't know what I'm good at, and then our other two founders, Bo Woods and Larry Insert, very long Dutch name that starts with a V, all have just fantastic technical and policy credibility in the community, both from helping to do exhibits, doing this for full-time jobs, and helping to advise those policy people. And how it all came together was we were at DEF CON at the ICS Village last year, and we looked around, and the challenge that we have with the ICS Village is most people don't know what an ICS is, right? You go to the car hacking village, people know what cars are, right? You go to the IoT village and people are like, I have a phone, I know what that is. So it's a lot more accessible to people. ICS, it's not accessible, and we really need the actual equipment. You need to see HMIs, PLCs, microcontrollers, and get to touch and play so you can go, I see that. But the problem is this stuff's proprietary, it's really expensive, and it's so heavy, so it costs a lot of money to build this, to maintain it, and to ship it around. So we're looking at, we have all these passionate volunteers and folks that are doing this in their free time, they're taking over their garages, marriages are being ruined, and at the same time, how do we make this easier? So that was where the idea that we all got together and like, why don't we formally organize a 501c3 with our goal being, let's provide education awareness on these systems. And so that's the mission, and that's where it all came from.
So what kind of demos or gear do you keep out here in the sandbox for people to see and interact with?
So the village is constantly changing. I'll give a shout out to our newest exhibit that's here, and Airbus and Clarity worked together to create the first ICS Village Capture the Flag competition, and what they have is, combined with a website with challenges and the traditional scoreboard format, they have actual hardware, so you can work with physical pieces at the same time as you're working the challenge, coming back in with the different pieces of protocols. The other thing I think it's really neat about that exhibit is there's a PLC on there that's quite famous in history. It's a Siemens PLC, and it was the same one that was a part of the Stuxnet attacks. So a little bit of history there. The mainstay of the ICS Village is the wall. Very large exhibit where we have the human management interface, the HMI, where you can come and see the results of like a water filtration system. One of the challenges with that is we want folks to be able to try to trick the system into being able to release more quantities of chemicals into the water supply, and there's a water pump there, and there's a heat transfer, so you get to physically see those pieces. Future vision for where we want to go with that is turning that into an entire slice of modern society where you have all the way from power generation to transmission to the pieces that consume that energy and the water and all those elements. Which brings us to the final exhibit, which is the Howdy Neighbor exhibit. So we have a whole model house there with about 20 to 25 different appliances. That is also a Capture the Flag challenge, although it's not enabled here, so we're just able to do different demonstrations of kinds of challenges in the connectivity of Internet of Things, which coincidentally also tied to the talk I gave earlier today.
So to kind of sum this up, obviously the main goal of the village is awareness. So for those who don't really understand the impact ICS has on their daily lives, give them a quick hit of awareness and let's go check out some of the toys.
Okay. Modern civilization completely rests on this concept of critical infrastructure. If you like water and you like electricity, that's industrial control systems. So this is where it's talking about where you have the website that you go to, and so the scoreboard. Do we have the scoreboard cycling up? Oh yeah, so you can see the scoreboard of the teams that are currently competing and working and doing this. And that's actually really impressive for RSA. Like I'm excited there's teams playing. And then that ties into the physical challenges themselves of the different pieces that you can do. And then this was the PLC that I was talking about that's famous.
So what's the house?
So this is Howdy Neighbor. This is an entire Capture the Flag competition as well. It has its own scoreboarding challenges. So everything in the village has to pass what we call the spouse test. If you've never touched a computer before, you have no idea what this is, you can follow the instructions, which are simple enough for any spouse to be able to pick up and do it. And this gives you a basic orientation to not only the exhibit, but the concepts and how these things work. So it kind of helps turn the lights on to get you started. For the more advanced folks, then it starts to work them into understanding the challenges, because now you're attacking the right space, because we make sure you're oriented to attacking the house, not just things around, because this actually presents in the competition like a house with all of these different IoT devices in it would. And then you score points based on the level of access that you get to those devices and the different kinds of pieces that you do. That's a representation of Dragos, so you can see their asset management and overall dashboard. So that ties into the range.
And there we have it. That's the ICS Village from the RSA conference. I'm your host, Steve Reagan, and this has been Salted Hash. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming.